as we discussed in several previous videos, most immigrants who come to Canada come from cultures that are significantly more hierarchical than Canada is. In hierarchical cultures, one of the key measures of your professional progress is promotions. You have a higher title which is more significant than you had before. So getting promoted is a big motivation for many immigrants. The challenge is, coming from hierarchical cultures, the average immigrant quite often does not understand what does it take to be promoted in an egalitarian organization like many organizations are in Canada. So I'm going to contrast the way people get a promotion in egalitarian organizations with the way people get promoted in hierarchical organizations. Everywhere in the world, a promotion means your box of responsibility has moved up one level. You have traded a set of responsibilities for a new one. The question is, how do you go from one to the other? What is expected to happen in between? So, in egalitarian organizations, the way you typically get promoted is like this. You are expected to take on some of your manager's responsibilities. So your box of responsibilities is rising a little bit. Now, there's only 24 hours in one day. So in order to take good care of these responsibilities, you're going to have to shed some of the responsibilities at the bottom. Otherwise, it's not going to add up. So how do you do that? Well, you reorganize your work, you delegate to someone below who's trying to move up, you buy new software so that you're more productive, whatever it is, but you find a way of gradually increasing the responsibilities you have. And in particular, you gradually take on more and more of your manager's responsibilities over time. And in Canada, you will be promoted when you're able to do the job without the title. And there's one thing which is implicit. They don't say it, but it's there, without the money. Okay? So, typically what happens is you're able to operate at the next level, and eventually somebody comes to you and say, hey, Lionel, we are like there's a new position of team lead opening up in this department. Are you interested? That means you have been able to operate as a team lead for the last 3 months without the title and without the money. And in egalitarian organizations, in Canadian organizations, you will typically get first the responsibilities, then the title, then the raise that goes with it. And these are sequential. They don't all come at the same time. In hierarchical cultures, how do you get promoted? Well, the way you get promoted is by making sure you are taking good care of your existing responsibilities. You do a good job and do whatever your manager is asking you to do well. And so you focus on those responsibilities, and eventually you get to the point where someone comes to you and say, Lionel, you've been doing a good job for the last 6 months. On Monday, you're at the next level. And in hierarchical organizations, you will trade your set of responsibilities, your salary and your title, for a new set all at once. So, what is the challenge? Well, if people have this model in mind and operate in this environment, what happens? The very thing they do to get promoted prevents them from being promoted. How does it come into play? Well, one of the ways people will try to help you move along in egalitarian organizations is by trying to include you, for example, in task forces, newer initiatives, and so on. And somebody will come to you and say, Lionel, there's a new task force forming next week on this topic. Are you interested in joining? In many Canadian organizations, being part of a new task force means you have an opportunity to increase your exposure within the organization. So it is something that will help you move up. But for someone who has a hierarchical mindset, this means I'm going to stretch my box of responsibility through the top. I cannot shed responsibilities at the bottom. And so eventually I will fail. So people who have a hierarchical mindset will quite often turn down these opportunities. Oh, I'm very busy, I really need to make sure my current responsibilities are well taken care of. That, in an egalitarian organizations, will make you be labeled as lifer. You're going to stay at that level for the rest of your career. So the very behavior that people have to get promoted prevents them from being promoted. Notice that it's true in reverse. What I mean by that is, for example, when Canadians work in hierarchical organizations, so for example, if they work in Chinese, Korean, Japanese, French, Russian organizations, then the very thing they do to get promoted, which is take on responsibilities at the next level, will prevent them from being promoted because their boss will say, hey, you're not a manager, you can't do this, you can't get involved in these meetings, and so on. So at that point, their initiative will end up being perceived as insubordination. So I find it is really important. If getting promoted is your goal, try to understand what kind of organization are you working in. Because if it is an egalitarian organization, the way you're going to get promoted is different from the way you get promoted in a hierarchical organization. Here's one way to summarize it. If you want to be promoted in an egalitarian organization, you need to, 1, strive to do your job, the job of your manager without the title, 2, take initiative, and 3, focus on your soft skills. If you want to be promoted in a hierarchical organization, okay, make sure your current duties are well done, make sure you understand well what are your manager's expectations, and quite often the decisions will be made at the head office, so spend some time at the head office.